Hello and welcome to another exciting interview spotlighting our soon-to-be certified executive wellness coaches from our upcoming certified executive wellness coach course, which commences on September 23rd. Now, these talented individuals you're about to see and have been seeing through our series are about to embark on a transformative journey to hone their skills and expertise in empowering leaders from senior leader roles to maybe high potentials to help optimize their well-being and performance and cultivate healthy, thriving work cultures. So join us as we delve into their experiences, insights, and their aspirations, highlighting the significant impact they are poised to make in the realm of executive wellness coaching and organizational well-being. So let's celebrate their achievements and explore the future of executive wellness coaching and wellness leadership together. So welcome, Maria. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you for having me, Lisa.
So for my listeners, Maria Amren is going to be joining our new cohort and our faculty of certified executive wellness coaches. And she has some really interesting things to share. And I thought it would be great to bring her on. So, Maria, as we discussed, I'd love for you to speak on what you perceive as the executive wellness and performance needs and challenges of leaders today, from, as I mentioned, frontline managers to senior executives, maybe.
Yeah, so I think today there's a lot of moving parts, and as executives, it's not only about taking care of yourself and prioritize your own self-care and fitness and health and nutrition and everything that comes with it, but it's also looking at the organization and your team and making sure that you are not only a good role model, but you also have opportunities to make changes in the organization that really gets to the root cause of the different stressors that people are experiencing. So I think those are kind of two different ways, and that's challenging for executives, right? It's not only taking care of myself and prioritizing myself, but also looking at the bigger picture at the organization.
Yeah, and anything come to mind, any past experiences relating to that in your work with leaders?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. I think the one thing is in smaller organizations, but also in larger organizations, you have these different job roles,
Mm.
and having clear expectations and knowing what you're supposed to be doing in your role helps with those stressors, right? And having some unclarity, uncertainty in your role really causes stress for people. And I think that's where the manager can really come in and create that clarity for their employees and setting those expectations and goals and really working with them so they have a clear understanding of it. I think as a leader, it's hard because everyone is managed different. So if you look at, for example, situational leadership, depending on how skilled your employee is, you're going to give them more or less instructions. And I think that's one of the skills as a leader that is really necessary in order to help their employees and their team to better manage their stressors.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yeah, no, okay. So thank you. And so what do you see as maybe, if I could really put a fine point on it, one or maybe two of the most critical wellness needs and challenges of leaders today?
so I think it's uncertainty, stress, and being agile in the environment that you're in, right? Because the environment constantly changes, demands
Mhm.
constantly changes, and how do we deal with that? There's certain things that we can control, and there's certain things that we can't. And
Mhm.
just something simple like identifying what you can and what you can't control is really good stress management technique that
Mhm.
you can use as a leader, and then kind of focus that energy on what you can control, which might be how do you lead your team?
Yeah, and as we get into, and in the course, because you've done one of our other courses, we're really going to focus on stress mastery, not stress management, stress mastery, and
Mhm.
get a lot of tools, and you'll get some more tools and techniques around that you can help support your leaders. Like there's a lot of talk about burnout today.
Mhm.
From your experience, I'm reflecting on my own over the years. It seems that it's in more in the forefront, even since the pandemic. Do you have any sense of why that is?
Well, I think it's multidimensional, right? So there are different ways. So as a nutrition and health coach, I work with deep health as well, which will look at kind of different dimensions of the holistic health.
Right.
One of them is physical, which comes to physical exercise and then nutrition and things like that. But it's also mental, it's also emotional, it's also environmental, it's also the existential, which I think since the pandemic, it's a lot about that existential challenge. And especially as you work with executives, tends to be more middle-aged, going through a lot of changes as women, but also as men. There are different demands in your personal life. So you have teenagers at home, and we know what happens when you have teenagers at home. And then you have parents who might be, getting sick and that needs a lot of support too. So it's
Really in
really,
that sandwich generation, right?
yeah. So, but I think that existential part is a big part of it.
Yeah, I had that discussion. For those who've watched my interview with Kim, we were talking about that existential, and I made a comment that as I see it, and it started during the pandemic, I would suggest, right? We had that time to really
Hmm.
decompress a little bit more and think about what's my vision, what's my purpose. And as you mentioned, as these, maybe middle-aged, if we can use that word, our leaders are really probably grappling with that, as you would expect, and
Hmm.
trying to discern that while keeping all the balls in the air as leaders and juggling things, right?
Right.
What are some strengths or passions that you feel you have as a wellness professional or coach that could really support the wellness and performance needs and challenges of leaders today?
So I think because I have an IO psychology background, so I worked a lot in organization in HR departments with HR systems and still do today. I have that kind of background and that knowledge around behavioral psychology, but I also am a nutritionist, I'm a personal trainer, I'm a health coach, so I have that side of it too. So this really gets me to blend the two and really work with the individual, but also look at it from the bigger picture in terms of what are the really core challenges and the root cause of the stressors in the workplace today.
And you really do have that quintessential, skill set, right? To address both sides of it. And I can certainly see how that will be of value to those that you work with and work with in the future. And, in ending off, then, can you provide some more examples of how you've supported the well-being needs of leaders in your past roles or contracts? And then what impacts or ripple effects did that have for maybe those they support and the organization as a whole?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting when you work with individuals in health coaching, they usually come to you with a problem, right? So that's kind of what you start addressing. But as you start peeling the onion, there's actually a lot more underneath it. So a lot of times I have clients that comes to me for fitness or nutrition, lose weight, or women might come to me because they're having challenges with sleep and so on and so forth. But as we start kind of peeling the onion, there's more than just that one thing. And I think that's, a benefit of doing what I do is where it's the health coaching, but also looking at the organization as a whole. So I think examples that I could think of are they come with me with fitness challenges and they want to kind of just get an exercise program, give them the exercise program, and then we start peeling the onion. They don't have time for it. They don't have the energy for it. And then we start talking about, well, why is that? How do you reprioritize? And then they start being a leader that really is a role model for, I need to shut down my computer at 6 p.m. And I need to tell my team that I am going to shut down my computer at 6 p.m. and I'm going to log on tomorrow morning. I'm not going to answer the emails at 11 o'clock at night. Small things like that is going to change the team and expectations of the team, and also maybe doing walking meetings, right? So I'm going for my walk, we're going to have a walking meeting, and that is a big deal for the employees and the team to really see that your leader are taking those actions and really putting themselves first.
Yeah, nice, nice. And just one thing I wanted to also touch on, because it's coming up a lot in our discussion of people coming into this course, and really doing a lot of research into this myself, is the area of high potentials and helping them navigate the succession track, right? And
Mhm.
having the inner resources and reserve, the health and well-being to sustain them in navigating and the challenges that it takes to, rise the corporate ladder. Have you
Mhm.
had any experience in working with those types of individuals and what might have been the outcomes, maybe?
Yeah, I think a few of my executives that I've worked with, they are high achievers, right? That's how they got to the position where they're at. And how they got there is usually by working 24/7,
Right.
constantly being available. So that's their past behavior. And as psychologists, we say the history is kind of a predictor of the future, right? And the same thing goes with behaviors. Like that what got you to where you are today. So I'm going to continue to do that because you're so afraid of losing what you have, and you think that's the only way to continue to be successful. And I think that's where the valuable conversations comes in, because that's a belief that you have. And then you kind of challenge that belief and talk about other successful people, other experiences that they had. Is that how they judge others who are successful? Is it only if they answer an email at 10 p.m. at night? Or are there other things that indicate that someone is good at their job or is a high potential or a high, achiever? So I think that's an important point when you work with high potentials is yes, you have the potential, but you also have to be smart in the way that you're working in order to continue to be that high potential and high performer. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to perform.
Yeah, it reminds me just quickly of a gentleman I had the privilege of coaching. He's now a senior VP at a big railway company in the US. And I remember him, and I quoted in my book, he said, one day I took 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, to do a yoga session in the middle of the day. And he said, I felt like I was on a mini vacation because it was just so antithesis to what, he might have normally done. And he said, I just couldn't believe how relaxed and more productive I was. So it's just helping the leaders, as you said, just put on the brakes for a minute and just reprioritizing, but gaining so much more in the end
Mhm.
by just taking it's just micro breaks. Sometimes it's all it takes. I just took 5 minutes to do a breathing exercise before we met. And I just feel a shift in my energy from doing that. It took me like a couple minutes, right?
Yeah. And I think the interesting part with that too is when you work with these high potentials or executives, just being aware of your reaction as you get stressed, that you're actually breathing short breaths.
Yes.
Just that awareness isn't really there until you start working with someone and you create that awareness. And then it's an aha moment. And they're like, oh, yeah, I noticed. Like I was really, so I just took a moment and I did the breathing exercise we talked about. And we know it actually lowers the blood pressure, right? It lowers the heart rate. So even though it's just 2 minutes, but it's just that change and being aware and acknowledging that that's something that you need to try. And if we try it, we'll see the benefits of it.
Very nice. Well, that is wonderful. And you've given leaders a lot to think about. And I really encourage anyone, if what's Maria said, has intrigued you or speaks to you, certainly reach out to her and, see where it goes, right? So as we wrap up this interview with Maria, our soon-to-be certified executive wellness coach, we encourage you, employers and leaders, to stay connected with her and her progress and the valuable contributions she can bring, to your leadership and your organization and to you as a leader. And yes, Maria's client-centric approach will help to, nurture leadership development while also fostering a culture of wellness and high performance for your organization. So it really is a win-win situation, right? And, by leveraging the expertise of Maria and our other certified executive wellness coaches, our mission is really to uplift our leaders and empower our employees to reach their full potential in a healthy and productive and sustainable way. So thanks for tuning in and be watching for our next interview.